All right. You know what today's episode's about? I don't know. Jordo, what's today's episode about?
We're going to be talking about all things tech, speed, control, the dark web, and ultimate scale in a digital business.
I love it. I also said how living in an RV helps you as an entrepreneur, how comparison is the thief of happiness. You have to protect your data. Your funnel's not your business, your core offer is. And there's only 3 big buckets you want to live in when creating an offer. And we cover some of the biggest mistakes people make with funnels. I think that's it.
Wow. You took notes.
I did. Oh, and how your funnels are just an amplifier for what's already there. So stop making failure your enemy and make it your friend because it's not catastrophic.
Let's write a book, bro. We got to write a book. That's so good.
We'll do this, but let's do it after everybody listens to the episode. So now go listen to the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. And today, I'm getting excited, and I'm like obsessed with sound effects today just because I got my office set up. I've been on the road for 2 months, Wi-Fi-less, homeless, 10 homes in a couple months. But I'm excited because this is the first interview podcast I'm doing in my office, and I'm doing it with a newfound dear friend, like my soul brother from another mother. We might have been like best friends in a previous life. I have no idea, but we see the world the same. I love this man in a very, very, like, he could totally be my work husband type of way, and I'm excited to have him. So today I have my friend Jordan from Drop Funnels on the show. I'm going to bring him in a minute, but let me tell you, this guy just sweats knowledge, IQ, wisdom, intelligence, marketing 101, and he's the person I text and call when I'm in my own way. And I'm like, hey, somebody called me for advice. Can you help me, please? Because I don't have an answer or I'm overthinking this whole thing. But from funnels to messaging to offers to software, I don't know anything that he's done and not succeeded at, and so he's got the Midas touch, including everybody I intro him to and every single thing that I ask him for advice on. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the warm, the wonderful, the king of the RV life with his 3rd child on the way. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Yo, man, that's the best. It might be the best intro anyone's ever given anyone.
Dude, it's my favorite part. Like, I tell people that everyone's like, so what was your dream? I'm like, my dream was to become a freestyle rapper. Like, that was my dream. Except I suck at it. I could never do it. So instead, like, secretly, my obsession is I watch freestyle rap like 24/7. Like, I watch it on YouTube. Harry Mack is my favorite. And I want to be like the Eminem of marketing. Like, that's why I love speaking and podcasting so much.
Yeah, it was like liquid gold right there. And apologies to everyone who has to listen to this because I can't possibly live up to that intro in real life. So
it's all right. Well, the RV life was true.
Yeah, no, that actually is true. We owned a lake cabin, and we've done that for multiple years, for like 5 years. And then my wife Julie, she got pregnant, and she's like, man, I just want to get out and like just go enjoy the rest. We're going out for coffee. We literally went out for coffee on a Sunday and came back with a brand new 32-foot trailer, like an RV. Like, literally, that's exactly what happened that day. You want to go for coffee? No, we came back with an RV. And then like a week later or 2, we drove all the way down from Minneapolis down to Florida and spent a month there. Like, no test grounds, no any of that stuff, and just figured it out. And yeah, it's fun.
You know what I love? You know what I love? Like, I think you're a madman because your wife was like 5-6 months pregnant with 2 little ones already. And you guys are like, hey, we're going to hit the RV life. I just moved to Montana, right? So this is my favorite part. We road tripped from California to Montana. And if anybody in California loves California, you now know how I feel and why I left. I called it California, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so here's the thing. I'm like hitting the road. No joke. Everybody laughed at me. They're like, you're moving. I'm like, yeah, we're road tripping. Like, oh yeah. I'm like, I have 4 horses, 3 snakes, 2 kids, 1 wife, not in that order. And we're road tripping from California to Montana. So like, picture this, like, we're about as California as they come. Lindsay's got a white BMW. We're towing the 2-horse trailer without the horses in it, but we use it as a moving trailer. Then I got the big black zombie apocalypse Jeep with my kid in it, and I have 3 snakes in the back. And so we road trip from Cali to Vegas, Vegas to Salt Lake City to Idaho, Idaho to Montana. And so, like, I want you to envision, I haven't talked about this. So, you know, you go to Vegas, right? You don't get to park and walk in. I was carrying a cardboard box with 2 pythons and a red-tailed boa into a suite at the Palazzo Hotel, trying to hide my snakes so I could keep them warm as we moved across the country. And then I had to do that at the Kimpton in Salt Lake City. And then in Idaho, we were in Salmon, Idaho. So we were at this bed and breakfast, right? And they have a no pet policy. And so I have to get this by the woman who runs this thing. And she listens to the podcast now, and she's already heard this story, so she's not mad at me. And I had to get them upstairs done and have a 4-year-old be like, don't tell anybody we have pet snakes in this place, right? Like, don't tell the housekeeper, don't tell the bellman, don't tell anybody. And like, we got here and I was like, I had a blast road tripping. It was one of the most stressful things of my life though, because there's so much unpredictability. Like when he has to pee, or if we're in the restaurant too long, or like, how are the snakes going to stay warm when we're stopping at that attraction? And I was like, just give me home. And then you're like, oh yeah, my wife's 2 kids, 5-6 months pregnant. We're just going to road trip in RV life.
Don't let me paint the picture that it was by any stretch. Here's the one thing, like, I feel like road tripping or RVing, and I'm sure we're going to get to some really great stuff here in a little bit.
We're setting the stage.
I feel like it's about perseverance, right? Expectations and perseverance. And I feel like I learned a lot of easy lessons the hard way. For example, if you have an RV, never run out of propane ever. If you run out of propane and the RV park that you're in runs out of power, you will freeze to death if it ever gets below freezing, and you have no way to fix it. So I spent like $200 on like these Bluetooth like sensors that would tell my phone when the propane tank was like getting a little bit too low and stuff. And it's like, it's at some point, it's not even RVing. I'm literally technologicing my way through surviving out on the road. And yeah, not good at all. And I feel like I probably should have read a book about it ahead of time.
I'm sure
but now I feel like I could write them.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of correlations. And then the other one is, running a software company like Drop Funnels on the road with no Wi-Fi. Because that was another one that I learned. Because I moved to Montana. So here's my big mistake. And we'll get into the podcast in a minute. But this is a good 7-8 minutes of setting the stage here. I was like, oh, this is easy. I'm moving. We'll stay in Airbnbs. I'll run the business. I'll run the podcast. I'll do my mastermind calls. Oh, except the maximum upload speed in Montana was 2 megs. 2 megs. Because apparently I lived in a state where people want to be disconnected from their children and work from home. But here they're like, oh no, our daycares are only 9 to 3 because you're with your family the rest of the time and you don't need internet at your house because, you just go to your office. And so I was texting everybody listening. I was texting Jordan like, hey, what hotspot did you use? What's the fastest data that you found? Like, that was the biggest struggle for me, was like the technological piece. I couldn't.
It's extremely real and extremely expensive and difficult. And I think Elon Musk is just like everything else. He's going to solve our problem with Starlink. But until it gets to that point where it's there, it was the biggest challenge we possibly faced. It wasn't like sewage tanks. It wasn't about clean water. It wasn't about power. It wasn't even really propane. It wasn't like timing or travel or gas or pop tires or any of that you'd expect. It was literally running an internet business without internet.
Yep. Yeah. It's, and tethering is not fast enough to record a podcast or do Zoom calls or have any of that magic.
Not even close.
Nope. Not even close. So
not even close.
Okay. So now that you guys have a good understanding of the craziness that's in our life, I'm going to kick off the first question. And I always start with this one, and I think it's a good one. And you probably have more wisdom than anybody know around this. So when you look back, you've been an entrepreneur for a minute. You've done all of it. You've done consulting, coaching, you make offers. Now you run a software company, right? Like you went and made a SaaS platform, which I still think you're a madman for, and I'm glad you do it because I won't. But when you look back at that, when you think about your entire journey as an entrepreneur and all that experience, like what is one of the biggest mistakes / lessons that you learned? And then how do you implement that and maintain the teachings from that kind of in everyday life right now?
Number one, biggest problem, mistake, without a doubt, without any comparison, without anything close at all, is comparing yourself to other people. And for a madman like myself, you can take a comparison. They say comparison is the thief of happiness, right? I tend to take comparison to have a normalized standard by which I can try to beat. I can try to beat somebody else, competitively in the marketplace on doing something better or cheaper or faster or more scalable and whatnot. But otherwise, like almost all happiness is stolen when you start to compare yourself. So, I mean, we're in the internet marketing space. We're in the entrepreneurial space. The easiest thing you can do is to fall for the trap of the social media lie. And every other guy who's out there, one of my buddies is making $4 million a month, doing his thing. And like, I'm kudos to him, but I also know behind the scenes, that doesn't mean he's making $4 million. It means that he's spending $1 million on ads and $2 million a month on teams and infrastructure and tech and software and all those things. And maybe at the end of the day, he ends up with 5 or 10%, going, which is great. Like great for him. That's amazing. But it's like, you see the outside perspective, and what you really need to understand is the inner work that's required to get to a certain spot and whether or not that's worth it to you. So for me, I started a SaaS platform in one of the most competitive red oceans on the planet. And only because I knew that there was an inkling in me, and we're going to dive into this too, that there's enough of ethical malfeasance and enough technical issues that exist in the current space that I know for a fact that I can solve, and we have solved, and we're going to continue to solve, that when people become aware of where they're at right now and how good things could be, they would radically change their perspective. Right. So in the way of saying that, like, okay, don't compare yourselves to a version of someone else who's put in 10 years and you've only done it for a year, and don't expect yourself to be there yet. In that same token, the comparison of like saying, what's the best case scenario for me, right? How do I get to where I need to be in the right sequence, in the right timing, and put in the leading indicators that end up giving you results? What do you put into place to make that happen? And so that's kind of what the story of Drop Funnels is all about, is like, we had this hypothesis that we could treat people better and do it cheaper, faster, more scalable, and really help people to be the hero of their story. And that's what we've been chasing since day one. So hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it did. And you used a word. What was the M word that you used? There was enough
ethical malfeasance. There's enough like just twistedness. It was like there's business and then there's ethics. And it seems like there's enough ethical boundaries being broken. There's enough malfeasance in that side that it's like, someone needs to do something about that. Someone needs to like either call it out or change it or do something different where that doesn't continue. It's almost like, I'm going to make the most gross comparison, but it's almost like human trafficking, in the sense that like, it's such an underground, still underbelly, like everyone kind of knows it happens, but they don't really put a lot of effort into exposing it or whatever. I'd say that there's an almost, not quite that big, because there's not quite that much of human capital being destroyed through the industry, but a very maybe parallel version to a business version of human trafficking, which is the sales of people's information, privacy theft. There's enough darkness on that side that I was like, man, as a person who cares about people's hearts and souls, and my own heart and soul and my family's heart and soul, that we have to try to do something different.
Yeah. And that's, we out here now, Band-Aid's coming off. So for those of you, I'm going to preface this for a minute. Jordan and I are really good friends, and we have some deep conversations, and in the amazing word that he just used, by the way, like, I need to read more, because I thought of like Disney's Maleficent. Like, that was the brain that I was like,
same thing.
Oh,
it's like in Spanish, it's like mal means bad. It's like Maleficent would be like a bad. It's just like the worst version of bad.
Got it. Okay, so I was pretty close. So I'm somewhat educated, right? So my YouTube education's paying off, right? I love it. I love it.
Me too.
And so, like, what's funny is even the parallels between us, right? So you sell, software, and you do an amazing job. By the way, everybody listening, I talk about Drop Funnels on the podcast all the time. I am not paid to talk about Drop Funnels. I am friends with Jordan. I believe in it. I use it. He's not paying for this episode. Let me just be really crystal clear. Like, I believe in it and I use it. But here's what's interesting is that I feel like there's even a parallel for me, and it happens in our world. Like, I've seen this with a lot of our mastermind students, a lot of our audience, and myself included, where having a heart and being aligned to your soul and actually adding value creates a reactance in the market, because it's so out of the norm. And people are so used to being transacted upon or sold simplicity and delivered complexity without realizing what's at the sacrificial bottom of it, like what they're actually losing for that. And I've been in this industry for a long time. Like, I got into this game in 2009, 2010 is when I like became accidentally an entrepreneur. And so I was a, food blogger, influencer, doing affiliate marketing, and I was like winning because I added value, but then people were crushing me because they were pixel stuffing and stealing data and breaking last clicks and then selling you this and selling you this. And one of the things I haven't talked about publicly ever is one of the reasons why I left that business and walked away and disappeared. And I felt like it was killing me. Like I felt like the only way I was going to succeed, because I was so deeply engrossed in that area, was like I was going to have to sacrifice my soul because everything was shady. There was nothing above brow. Like everything was a handoff at the sacrifice of something, like, oh, don't tell them we did this, and boom. And so I had to like leave the internet for like 2.5 years to come back. And it happens on both sides. And so there's a couple threads that I want to pull. I want to give everybody a preface real quick that, one of the things here is I've had a lot of experience. I've worked with literally hundreds of SaaS companies in this place. I'm friends with a lot of them. I've had some of you guys remember the Alex Sharfin podcast. We talked about the industry, what really happens in the industry and what we've seen. And the software side is no different. It's just as cutthroat, right? It's people spending money, acquiring all these customers on the front to inflate valuations, not really give what's there. And then you have to ask the questions like, how does that company have that many people and support that cost when they only charge that money? And one of the things that I don't think people really understand is what's done with your data on the back end. Like what actually really, really happens. And so there's a lot that happens that I don't think people are aware of. And I know some of it's going to come up today, but I just want to preface that I've talked about this on the podcast before. I've talked about a lot of this, and I choose my loyalties based on how companies work ethically. And one of the reasons I'm such a big proponent for ConvertKit and for Drop Funnels is because I know both of you. I know Nathan, I know Jordan. I believe in everything. You're wide open. You're open book, ethical. You're like, this is why we do it. This is how we do it. Your teams like support customers like there's no tomorrow. And I'm never guilted of like thinking I'm not one funnel away, right? Like I'm never made wrong or bad or whatever. And you guys actually stand by your promise and you're really open and authentic. And so I know that's going to come up. And so I just wanted to preface everybody here that like, this is just an authentic conversation about what really happens in the market. And so I do want to talk about Drop Funnels for a minute though, because we made the move, I don't know, like a couple months ago, like 6 months ago. I met Jordan through our dear friend, Mike Dillard. Mike, love you, man. Thanks for getting a call my wife earlier today about crypto. Appreciate you. And I found out about Drop Funnels. And, here's the thing. I've been on all the platforms. I've been on Kajabi. I've been on ClickFunnels. I've been on SoundCard. I've been on Kartra. I've been on Thrive. I've been on all of them. And all of them, there were things that worked, things that weren't, but they all felt really complicated, misrepresented. And one of the biggest things is that I never really owned any of it. It was like I had this tool, I had this tool, I had this tool, and things weren't matched. And then when you came along, I was like, oh, WordPress. And then my brain was like, oh, everything's been so simple for so long. I was like, but it really wasn't simple because like load speeds and page times and the things that were really happening on the back end were affecting my business. And then you come along, you're like, no, man, it can be better. It can be different. Like, we're not trying to own your data. We're not trying to steal you. No, we can do that. You can make that here. You can do it. And I was so engrossed in the industry that I, for years, thought like I couldn't do that anymore, right? Like, oh, I can't build that. Nobody can do that unless I have this software, and nobody can do it unless I have it here. And so I want to know from you, you went from offers and consulting and doing all that stuff to, I'm going to launch this software. I'm going to do this. What were some of the giant holes that you saw that you knew you could solve? I want to start there.
Yeah. So like, by the way, there's the obvious comparison to Drop Funnels versus the other competitors in the space. And like, it doesn't mean that we have any kind of less respect for the marketers in that space. I think Russell Brunson's a genius marketer. I think that a lot of these founders of SaaS companies, like point blank, they're just genius marketers, right? So that's kind of on the side. The other side is like, there's the tool side and there's the truth of the matter. And I came from kind of like the affiliate side. I was doing consulting and marketing and that kind of stuff. And I was actually using ClickFunnels for the longest time. And I was a huge proponent. I was one of the fastest growing affiliates in their space at the time. And then I unfortunately started to see these really strange things happening between my affiliates being stolen and some of my data, several people mentioning cases of like their software being, or their data being stolen, as in like I would refer someone in and they would continue to be marketed to, by the company and to the endless soul-sucking sales journey that is ClickFunnels, right? And they're great marketers, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're giving you, just because someone is great at sales doesn't mean that they're great at giving you a great journey, right? At giving you a great product and great fulfillment and great support. And so I found like all this, I just found all these things, and they started to add up until like the big house of cards fell down, which is that data theft happening, pixel stuffing happening, where my credits weren't, going through, and lots of people facing that. Massive arbitrage wars in paid advertising to ClickFunnels pages, and even the domain reputation being almost. I looked into the DNS structure of ClickFunnels pages. It's not just ClickFunnels; it's a lot of custom coded sales sales funnel platforms. Is like their URL structure is seen as a redirect by not only the search engines but by paid traffic sources like Facebook and YouTube, and so they'll see it as like a black hat URL redirect, meaning that people are getting their ad accounts actually shut down because of how their URLs work, instead of an actual website in a real infrastructure. And they came out a long time ago where it was perfectly fine, but today it's just not okay. And then I also noticed that like one of my favorite studies is Dean Graziosi's book funnel. One of his book funnels was loading in 28 seconds based on the speed test. 28 seconds. And we know that based on studies from Amazon, Google, every possible tech company that researches this stuff, is that if your page is loaded at any more than 4 seconds, period, on any speed test, you are losing money, period. Amazon found that for every 100 milliseconds of latency, your conversions could drop by upwards of 10% per millisecond, meaning that you are losing not only just small amounts of money, you're losing massive amounts of money, especially as you scale an organization. And so like all that, it's like, okay, we've got the sales psychology, but that comes at a cost. I kind of have to get the tech there that exists where I can sell stuff through a sales funnel, and I can make it drag and drop, and it should be easy and quick and all those types of things. I kind of have to sell my soul to get there. It's kind of like it's a drug that people bite into. And frankly, more people make money as an affiliate of that software than they actually do using the software, right? That was another big kind of card that really toppled the deck, was like the culture that exists in these companies, I just think don't serve people in the greatest way possible. On the other side of the coin, we have a software infrastructure called WordPress. Almost everyone's familiar with WordPress. If you started a blog when you were in junior high, it was probably on WordPress, right?
Thanks, Matt.
Or Zanga, if you guys remember. George, were you ever on Zanga?
I wasn't on Zanga, but I wanted to just publicly say thanks, Matt Mullenweg, because I know Matt, and he founded WordPress, and he's a dope dude, and I love that he did it. So
I got to meet him for sure, because I mean, I've been such a screaming fanboy about WordPress for so long, and every project I ever built was on WordPress. And but part of the thing is that it's so scalable, it's so powerful, it's so fast, and it's so customizable that the problem is it with that much variability, there's some tech skills required. You need to be able to kind of code. You need plugins, you need themes, you need servers, you need all that kind of stuff. And to bring it all together brings this beautiful, pure thing to the world, but it's hard and it can get quite expensive depending on what you're trying to do. And so we have these two things. I've got sales funnel psychology that does not have the tech that actually serves me. It's stealing my customers. It has really slow load speeds. It's overpriced and expensive. And I'm just losing money, period. And I'm losing my customers, period. It's just anyone who's been there long enough knows that this is happening. And we're okay just letting that happen. On the other side, we have this incredible tech. WordPress, it powers 34% of the internet. It solves 80 to 90% of the indexing issues that Google will face. So you can actually rank your stuff in Google. We have a common friend that actually told me about a story. They had a project where they had a product, and they had someone who wasn't happy for whatever reason, and they went and launched a WordPress site. And she was on ClickFunnels, and they started this really crappy little blog or whatever on WordPress that was a negative review, and beat her in the search engines almost immediately, even though she's been around for forever and serves the crap out of people. Someone was able to come in because of the tech, because of WordPress and how powerful it is to actually outrank somebody. That's the power of WordPress. Generally speaking, it ranks fast. It's very, very scalable. But I was like, no one's really combined these two things. I was like, I've done this for forever. I've done the tech, but it's hard. But the sales funnel psychology really makes sense, but no one's brought these two worlds together to make a code-free, sustainable, clean, no data theft involved infrastructure where you can build sales funnels, blogs, sites, all of your membership courses, your logins. You can sell everything, upsells, downsells, cross sells, order bumps, multiple membership types and styles based on what you want to do, and have that control of your own infrastructure. And in a space where we vow to not only treat you the best, but also charge less than other people and not steal your customer data at the same time. We knew that we would be facing an uphill battle, but I knew that on my deathbed, I can say that I served people.
Yeah.
Right. And I did the best thing that's right for all of us. Right. Which is that even if it means I make less money or the company makes less money, we are never going to be called out for treating people ill or for stealing people's data or, lapsing privacy agreements or doing anything just to make a buck. And I just thought that we could do things differently.
Yeah. And this is what I commend. And you were actually speaking, and I saw something when you were speaking for the first time since I've been in this game. Because back in 2009, 2010, the only place I knew how to sell was ClickBank, right? Sales funnel psychology wasn't really a thing at that point. We were all either on WordPress.com or WordPress.org, right? And it was we knew it as food bloggers. We made it when we made to WordPress.org, right? When we went from Blogger.com or WordPress.com, I have my own domain, but then it's how do I pick a theme? And back then, it was you had to custom code stuff. You'd be dropping bank to get a custom website. And so this problem in the market existed, right? And someone's okay, we can help you do this and make it simpler and easier. So themes started to come, Genesis framework, Studio Press, all those things started to come, and it made it easy. And then someone's then sales funnel psychology came on, and they're well, we don't know how to build the software doing on WordPress, so let's make this other one. Let's cut out all the stuff that makes us good and just go for money. And I actually think there was a point that helped it really change the industry. It really helped from a marketing perspective, get into consumer psychology, sales funnel psychology, because we weren't going to go spend $100,000 to make a funnel and custom code it for 90 days. It wasn't a thing. So it actually brought marketing forward a ton. But then when those companies start going, you have to fund them, you have to make money, you have to do all of that. And then all the competition comes, and it's if you're willing to sacrifice your soul, even in the slightest way, and it needs a shower, it gets dirty really, really quickly. And then you come back. And I feel there's this, there's this rebounding period. When you stretch it out, it always comes back, and you're kind of at the forefront of hey, let's bring this back to where it belongs, right? Sales funnel psychology matters. Everybody should have the ability to make money in their business. They should have the ability to upsell and do downsells and have membership sites and collect payments, but it shouldn't be at the expense of, if you don't pay us, you can't do it anymore, or that you can't have all the other things that would make it successful. We need to get to this point where we can build it on an open source platform. We protect your data. We protect you as a customer. We're really open. We're not, having the old boys club of let's pump these 100 testimonials so everybody thinks all 100,000 people are having, these results, and we're being really open about it. And you guys have kind of been at the forefront of retracting everything back into what it belongs at. And, for me, WordPress, at the end of the day, Matt will say it all day. I remember I was in a mastermind with him. He was telling me this. He's I don't care. He's people have the right to own their stuff. I don't have the right to own somebody's data. I don't have the right to own somebody's outcome. I can protect them and let them do that. And you guys basically built on top of it and help people. And so you've said something a few times that I didn't even understand really until 2 years ago. Until I really got into high levels of scale of paid media and digital marketing about data theft, or what that even means. Can you kind of break down what you mean when you say that, of protecting somebody's data or selling somebody's data, and how an overview and understanding of that, of how you don't do that, but why it's so imperative and important?
Yeah, boy. And it's a really dark hole. So for everyone listening here, I'll keep it kind of high level. If you want to dive in deep, it'll just depress you. So just be aware that it gets dark, but it's the reason that Zuckerberg was on Capitol Hill being deposed by, dozens of senators, is that privacy is a very real and critical part of us being in the internet. And we're not just talking about advertisements, right? in this particular case, we're talking about the fundamental aspect of when you sell something on a platform. This is the disposition. This is the biggest difference here that people need to understand. That when you sell something on a platform that you're using to make sales, right? It's a sales funnel platform or an e-com platform or anything. Does that platform sell stuff to your customers after they've made a purchase? That's one of like the absolute biggest things that people need to ask of their software company is, do you sell stuff to my customers and use their data to make more money for the company when I sell a customer in? Because it absolutely happens, right? And it's a very easy way to make money, because technically, if I decided to do that and go that route, we could scrape all the customer information from every marketer who's on our platform and technically go target those people to go sell our own stuff to their customers, right? Which is what some people are doing. But it's a massive privacy breach, and I think a breach of trust. So for us, it's not just like, hey, you're getting cookied and we're going to show you some ads, which by the way, I don't have such a big horse in that game. Would you rather show ads that like you actually care about, or ads that you don't care about? Like if you're a big macho builder, you're going to see, pink tutu, advertisements or something. It's just not relatable to you. You don't care about it. Would you rather see things that are relatable or not? Because unless you're paying for a platform, you are the attention that's being sold. That's the nature of the digital economy. So, but what people need to really ask, and if they were, I would implore everyone to go ahead and ask, whether it's Drop Funnels or Shopify or ClickFunnels or Kartra or Groove Funnels or whatever other thing is popping up, ask them, do you pixel my customers and sell stuff to my customers? And that should be the number one determination as to whether or not they're a platform you want to build in. Because it's the exact same thing as, let's say that like you have a big house party, right? And you bring over all your guests, and then Walmart down the road takes a picture of every guest that comes through your door, and they like find out all their data. They find out everything that's going on. And then they start bombarding those people with advertisements for their own stuff. It's like they're advertising to your people that you paid for and you paid to acquire, and they're already hot buyers. Like you did the work to go through that. And so for us, like we just made the stand that like, I'm just not going to I don't want to be treated that way. It was happening and I didn't want it anymore. And really the platform didn't exist that made it transparent and open, and that we just made a stance that they wouldn't do that. And so we just had to kind of format that ourselves. So it's not a fun conversation. It's not a sexy conversation, but it's critical. It's like,
it is.
It's really critical.
It is. And like, I don't talk about this as much as I want to, but I see it across the board, right? Because I'm behind the scenes of these CPG companies and all of this other stuff. But it's like, I know every day I open my inbox, right? And I'm like, I never signed up for that email list. I get pissed. Like I get pissed. I'm like, somebody sold my email address, right? Like somebody that I trusted, that I gave consent to, turned around and sold it, right? And now, we're 10 years past that, right? Because people have been selling email lists forever. But I just Googled it because I was curious. Currently, the value of data analytics, like there's $230 billion a year being invested to get access to this data. Like it is one of the biggest forms of currency in today's day and age is data. And we see people like Facebook go up on Capitol Hill and have to, we see things like GDPR and all of that and protecting the data. But what people miss is that these other companies, these platforms are literally building the softwares that people are transacting on. Credit cards are going on, personal information is going on, and they have access to all of that data. And when you start reading and diving into terms of service, like I found out about this conversation about 2.5 years ago, and I started diving, and I had an attorney friend to read me terms of service from one of these platforms. And they're like, do you realize that they're doing this? And I had no clue. Like I had no clue. And it feels like really, really violating. But, like to echo what you said, I don't mind retargeting. Like television has been doing it for years with Nielsen. Like you get different commercials based on different areas that you live. And like, I love that personalization, but it's when it gets into like, that's my information. Like I trusted you and I gave you that information, and that was between you and I. Like that was an agreed upon relationship. And then that's what I expected. The moment I leave and then I find out that somebody turns around and sells that, like, I didn't have that agreement, and that's not okay. And I don't ever want my customers to have that or anybody else. And so I think that's what you're talking about there. And I think data,
and just for clarity, like, I want people to really, and I'm sure we're going to get to more like fun, sexy, hilarious concepts, right? But I want people to really understand this and know that this is happening for you right now. Is that it would be like George launching a funnel to marketers about helping them grow their business. I log into his account and see all the people that purchased beyond the cookies, beyond the privacy stuff, beyond the leads or any of that like retargeting data. I log into his account. I see his list of buyers and I email his buyers and be like, hey, I know that you're a marketer. I've got this thing. Do you want to buy this as well? It's that intrusive. It's so far beyond even like terms and conditions and the legal speak and the boilerplate stuff. It's like true invasion of, I know that person wants this because they bought it from one of my customers. Now I'm going to go out and make that person my customer. It's like, it's so dark. And it's like, I don't even like, it can get depressing really quick.
Well, and like to summarize it really is, you make an agreement with somebody like, hey, you're going to come over and buy this thing from me for the next 12 months. And you have that agreement and you weigh your business on it. You're like, oh, that's in. And then somebody comes in and takes that business away from you. It's like fighting an uphill battle. And it's like you're doing all of the work. You're investing your dollars to get that attention. You're going on the podcast tours. You're going on the media. You're doing the content. You're writing the blogs. You're recording the videos. You're doing the podcast. You're putting it out into the world. You're getting all that attention, and you worked somewhere between a month and 12 months to get that conversion, to get that sale. And then the person who you're paying to use their platform to get that sale then says, thanks for doing all the work for me. I'm going to now sell to that person without doing any of the work, and they're not going to pay you anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what's happening. And it's like, that's why I'm saying it's not like as dark as like the human capital version of human trafficking. It's pretty, from an economic perspective, is pretty darn close. It's like, I'm selling out my best friends and like, oh, it's so dark and twisted. And I was like, man, someone has got to stand up for this and someone's got to make new rules and be willing that even if I have to have a new learning curve because maybe a software is a little different or whatever, that I can trust. It's like, what matters more to you? Is it trust? Is it money? Like, what is the ultimate currency for you? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to like vouch for what decisions you make, and yeah, it's bizarre.
I'm getting like, worked up again. Like,
I know. I get like the chills. It's so dark. It's like,
and I want to give people a little bit of insight, like into me. So like I'm going to say this because I live in this world of marketing. Like Jordan and I are talking about, like heart-centered, my soul not needing a shower, because when I started in marketing, I didn't do it that way. I didn't know any better. I came up and I was like, if you do this and you do this, and if you just email them this and, do this. And like, I made money doing that, but I actually literally almost died. I had to walk away from that company because it was so out of alignment and so disgusting. And I hurt people. Like I really, really hurt people through doing marketing, quote unquote, or the way that it was. And this was like 6-7 years ago because like the mentors or the people that I found had told me to do it. But at the end of the day, like, I say this all the time. I say this to mastermind members. I say this to everybody. Like, I don't really care. Like my bank account balance isn't going on my headstone. I've never ever seen that. But like how I made people feel, and like my kids get to live with my reputation. Like they get to be in the world of like that I created and I influenced. And I'm getting teary-eyed saying this because what's so hard is like, dude, like you and I do a lot of the same stuff, but I'll have people. And I'll have people who I genuinely want to help, and I'll go out online and I'll see it and I'll record like a 30-minute video and I'll help them, and they'll respond and be like, what are you trying to sell me? I'm like, no, genuinely, like I just wanted to help. Like I genuinely felt the urge in my heart to help. And I feel like a lot more people need to understand that these things exist, because it's like the undertow, right? Like we think we're making progress, right? But then when we look at shore, we're like 100 yards down because the darkness like pulled us over there. And a lot more people need to just become aware that this is happening so that it can be different and like it can be protected. And like we know that like where we're spending our time, our money, our dollars is going towards what we're doing, and it's not being ripped out from under our feet. And so I do think it's really, really important to be talked about, and not even from a place of like, oh, bad mouthing, boom, 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 but just from a place of like ethics. And I think ethics really, really belong in business. Like we're talking about money, food on people's table, like their ability to provide for their kids, their ability to provide for their employees being taken away to basically support big data and somebody else's financial interest that doesn't have yours at mind. And so I think it is an important question to ask, and we all need to know that this exists. So thank you for sharing it. So let me spin it real quick. What's your favorite food?
Dude, I am such a pizza fan. It's disgusting.
Ooh, what kind?
Oh, dude, I love kind of a traditionalist. I love the thickest deep dish, Chicago style, like either pepperoni, double or triple pepperoni, or meat lovers. Just the grossest pizza you can get. Like, if it's gross, I'm probably okay with it. Just cheesy and like, oh man, just like Giordano's, I would say is one of my favorites.
It's funny. It's like I used to go to Chicago like 3 times a month for Vital, and my Uber Eats, like my guilt meal when like nobody knew I was in my hotel alone, was Giordano's like deep dish pepperoni.
That's
And
it,
like
buddy.
the thing is that like with that pizza though, it's not like you pick it up. Like you just need a spoon. Like you just have to eat it from like the top down, or put it in a bowl.
Or just like take it like a plate and just like dip it.
And dip it, yeah.
Your face. Yeah.
So you said something earlier that I think is important, and I think that this is really what it comes down to. Entrepreneurs, business owners, all of it. Like it's our job to advocate. It's our job to know what we're using, why we're using it, and it's also okay to ask questions. And you said this earlier, and I would implore everybody to ask. Like, take an audit of what you're working on and what you're working with, and ask yourself, like, hey, do you do this? Like, is this there? Is this clear? And like, make sure you're aligning yourself, but also setting yourself up to win the game. Because I personally, and out of respect, will not say this person's name, but I know somebody who lost about $250,000 a month by having affiliates stolen and not attributed, and these things happening, and then was also turned around and made the poster child against consent, because content was recorded under an agreement of something was there, and then created IP that somebody took, all under this same world and same guise. And it's really, really important, because there's enough business for all of us, and there's enough customers for all of us to do this the right way. Like there is enough to do this the right way that doesn't sacrifice that and leave some value where we want to go. And so, okay, so big data, we're done. We kept that pretty clean. I'm not angry, like I didn't break anything. And so I'm pretty proud of myself for that one. Because there's been podcasts that I didn't release because I got really dark really fast. And
it's probably best that we just if everyone's aware of it, know that it exists, and know that there are people who genuinely care. Like even at the expense of us making more money off of you, we just genuinely care about doing things the right way. That's
Totally. And I think that this is really, I've been there, but I think it's really about alignment and knowing that's out there. And like what I have to give Drop Funnels props to is like, I can text Jordan whenever I want. I still don't get special effing treatment. Like I get put in line and the team comes and helps me, but I'm like, come on, dude. Like, can I get like some and he's like, no, like, and the team's great. Like everybody's there. Yeah. They're responsive. They're there. So data being one of them. The other thing that I really appreciate about you guys and your team and what I've seen is you basically are like, hey, listen, I think everybody should have access to all the tools. And then your job is to figure out if you want to use them or not, right? And, that's another thing that I see in this market all the time. It's like, hey, we'll give you this. But if you want that, you have to pay for that. Or if you want that, you have to pay for that. Or, oh, we didn't do that. Or now that you've been paying, let us convince you that now what you have isn't enough, even though when we sold it to you, it was enough. And now we want to add this other monthly recurring billing so we can increase our revenue because our server cost is overloaded and we're not making enough money selling your data. So let's just keep adding to the pile. And you guys are really open about all of it. And what I love is like, you're built on top of WordPress. So like WordPress is WordPress. Like you're not doing anything with it. It's open source. It's there. And you're like, hey, this is how you use it. You guys are really open and transparent. And you're like, hey, you can have all of it. All of it. And then your team and you, including in your Facebook, including in your marketing, including in all your content, you're also extremely available and extremely helpful for your customers. Like probably to a fault if I was like looking at it from an efficacy perspective of like time and money with employee costs and overhead.
Like literally this morning I had like front end $49 buyers, which most CEOs or founders would be like, push them off. Like they emailed me this morning and I responded to them personally. And I always want to try. And you mentioned that, George, too. It's like, I think everyone who's made a splash in marketing at some point or another has maybe been in an industry that either knowingly or unknowingly wasn't that great. And I think I had been there too. Right. And I know what it feels like to be pushed off to the side. And so even like, you and I are on Voxer, and it's like, you have a question, you just hit me up and be like, hey, what's going on with this? I'll be like, okay, I'll put, and so there's a scale issue to that always. And so that's always a balance. And yeah, running a SaaS platform is not profitable, generally speaking, until you exit, until there's a sale. Mm-hmm. And then your only goal at that point is to really just tread water, right? And try to survive through it. I've never taken a dime of investment. Myself, I've completely bootstrapped it. I started with $1,000 and we've scaled now. We have 19 employees all over the world, thousands of monthly customers. And it's all just by, I think, serving people hopefully better and making ourselves available. Even myself, making myself available to people, I think has been helpful, because I want the customers to win. Because when they win, they get out there and they get very, very loud and excited about winning. And 80% of our acquisitions right now are organic. Mm-hmm. Only 20% is anything paid or campaigns from us. In fact, our paid acquisition is actually pretty bad. Like, it's not that effective. Our customer base is like the very biggest and loudest, most effective source of us getting, acquiring new users and members. But yeah, so for us, I did make a decision, even though this was another thing highly inefficient, but people are able to take advantage of it, is that I decided I hate being capped on features. This is a point of this recording, right? So like anything, really could change. But at this point now, everyone on the platform, regardless of the plan that you're on, you get unlimited funnels, unlimited courses, unlimited pages, unlimited blog posts, unlimited users, unlimited sales, contacts. Literally, there is no limit except for we cap the kind of the traffic, which is translated into bandwidth that hits your plan. And our plans are entirely based on the amount of traffic that you're getting. So if you're getting traffic, you're making sales, period. I mean, that's just the nature of the case, unless you're doing things really, really wrong. If you're getting traffic, you're making money, period. So our plans only scale based on like, hey, do you want one site? Do you want 5 sites? Do you want 10 sites? And do you want traffic going all to those sites and everything there? And we start at $49. It was like, when I was starting out, having a $49 option like this would have changed my life, George. I'm telling you. Totally. Like, it would have changed my life. It would have saved me so much money and time and headache and tears and blood that I sweated over building, these things that I truly, truly cared about. Having drop funnels at that time would have been revolutionary in my life at that point in time. And so now I'm like, here's where we're at. And I'm just going to go serve that version of myself from 10 years ago that wishes that I had it.
Yeah. And what I actually love about that is, like, I look at your plan and your structure like the internet, right? Like, if I only need X amount of bandwidth, I pay the internet company and they give me that much. And if I need more, I pay for more. But it's kind of like as I scale up. And it's the really easy way, because like I think it's the best way to do it. And just for everybody listening, I used to be in the data world. Like, I was an IT professional in the Marine Corps, and so like I used to build servers and networks and all of that stuff. And the biggest cost of all of this is you having to send all this data and manage this data and that server cost of what's there. And then that's like leased or owned, and you either have to build your own server farm or you have to lease all that property, from somebody else who has massive server farms. And it is like probably the one increased thing that like I think it should be done there. Totally. And so I have a couple, I want to make this a little bit more fun, but one of the things that I think, and I'm going to pick your marketing brain, because I want to give you kudos, because not only do you own like a SaaS platform, like you are one of the smartest like business marketing brains that I know. And I think a lot of the stuff that's in the industry, like, you're not only interrupting or disrupting, what is out there from like an ethical standpoint, right? But you're also disrupting what's out there from the false promises standpoint, right? And, I think a lot of the marketing out there is like, well, we'll give you, unlimited this or have this. And you're like, but none of that helps anybody make money. It's just a distraction. It's just a departure from what actually works. And so when you think about it now as owner of Drop Funnels, but also having all this experience, What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when it comes to quote unquote like sales funnels or order bumps or upsells or using the tools that you create that get in the way of them actually succeeding?
Oh, dude, I'm so glad you asked that question, and I'm hoping I can have permission to just cut this little bite out because I wish everyone knew this. And so like the biggest comparison here is like there's lots of softwares out there. One came out and it's like, as you mentioned, the far side of the other spectrum where things get super hypey and just out of whack. And people like really mistake, features for having a business. Like your funnel is not your business. Your checkout form is not your business. Your ad is not your business. Your core offer is your business. And that's what truly matters is your offer. And there was another one that came out recently and people would know if they knew it, but they came up with this lifetime deal. And it was like, you're going to get like 1 billion features and affiliate stuff and pages and funnels and all that stuff. And it's lifetime deal for like $1,700. And it's like, yeah, that's like sexy and amazing. And like all these people bought it. They're all logging in right now. Nothing works. Nothing is supported. The features aren't going to be ready because I know, because I'm a SaaS founder, for a year, maybe 2 years. They're going to be waiting 2 years to be getting what they were promised. And for us, we're like, nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing lifetime deals. We're not doing like random hyped up promos. We're not doing any of that baloney because we just want to be honest and true to what we are, is to be a platform of strength. And so what we really teach people is that you're not just one funnel away. It's your funnel you should not mistake a funnel for a business. And that's unfortunately what people have prescribed is that like, that's all I need is a funnel, or all I need is a podcast, or all I need is an email list, right? No, your business is holistic. Just like it's the same thing. Saying that you're one funnel away is saying that I'm one workout away from getting a 6-pack abs. It does not work. It has never worked and it will never work. Doing one thing is not a holistic view. If that's the final little piece that you need and everything else is perfectly dialed in, traffic, sales, conversion, backends, fulfillment, your legal perspective, your business structure, if all of that's at 100% and then you launch a funnel, yes, it's an amplifier, right? And a funnel is an amplifier. But when you don't have a great offer, that's what we really focus on with people. In fact, we just launched something called the Core Incubator. Over 30 days, we're going to coach them into building into their entirely brand new business. Any idea that they have, there is a path to getting that profitable with a digital business without funnels, without ads, without lists, without any of that stuff, because you're truly just focusing in and honing in on what matters, which is what are you going to do for people? What's the primary issue you're going to solve? And there's 3 buckets that you want to live in. One is courses, which is kind of a do-it-yourself. You're taking George's mind and you're saying, all right, George has all this experience, hundreds of millions of dollars in results. I'm going to show you what to go do, and I can charge X amount for the access to that information to go do it. That's do-it-yourself. It's what we call a course. Or there's done with you, which is coaching or consulting. You can charge a little bit more typically for coaching because it's going to be your time. And it'd be like, hey, you go to George's event. He's going to work with you. He's going to be there in person. He's going to be able to shake your hand and over a meal, be able to share like what's going on with your business and kind of have a little bit of insight into that. And that's worth a ton more, right? We're taking that $100 million perspective from a course, and now I'm get to deliver it on a silver platter. And then there's services, which is like more like done for you. So do it yourself, done with you, done for you. Done for you is like services. Like, how can I get your site ranked on page 1 of Google? How can I run your Facebook ads? How can I build a funnel for you that will actually convert? How can I craft a webinar or write a sales letter? Those are done for you services. So it'd be the same as like, all right, George, I'm going to go to your house. We're going to spend 3 days together. George is going to be sitting there on his computer, typing away, slamming your sales letter, writing your ad copy, writing your emails, and you're going to spend probably $1 million and make 10 million back. That's it. That's the nature of these offers. And that's what makes it so valuable. So we really focus with people on their core offer, that's ultimately what matters. And that your funnel, your blog, your site, your ads, all those things are only amplifiers of what really matters. It's just like money, George. It's like, when people win the lottery, it's an amplifier of who they are. If they're selfish, it makes them more selfish. If they're giving, they will be more giving. If they are generous or caring, or if they are cautious, it will do all of that times 10. It's the same thing with any digital business. It's going to not only really reveal and expose your weaknesses as a human being, but also as a business owner, but it really will reveal what matters. And at the heart of every digital business or any business period is, what is that core offer? Once you have that dialed in and that focused, if I can impart that to anybody, it's that your offer is what will make you money, and it's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's the problem that you're solving and how you get that to the market.
And I think to add to that, because that is the best breakdown I've heard of that, now understanding that the core offer is the after state, right? What it is, your quote unquote funnel is just a bridge to meet people where they are to get them into the offer. It's not the offer. It's not the after state.
Yes.
All it is a bridge to get them from their island over to yours if they like what yours looks like and wants the results that are over there. Because to add to that, like, I go into companies all the time and they have like 84 bridges and they can't see somebody walking down one all the way over there and they're wondering like how to get more people. I'm like, well, you're sending them to 84 different bridges. I was like, but let's stop talking about the bridge for a minute. What is it that you're helping them with? And like, what's the easiest, most effective way to get them there? And I think that that's the best way to think about, you know, a funnel. Simon Bowen does this really well when you think about like the genius model. You know, it's really, really simple, because like when we think about drop funnels, right? Like, drop funnels doesn't help anybody if they don't know who their customer is, how they're going to help them, and be able to deliver that result. And so you can go build funnels and lead magnets and pages and blah, 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 but you're not one funnel away. You're one core offer away. And then you build a funnel or a website or a mechanism that you can send people to get them to that offer. And so I absolutely love that breakdown.
Let's take an example of pizza, right? Just 10 seconds. It's like, if I've got pizza, I've got Giordano's. My goal is not to like imagine that I have pizza on the other side and then go wave signs and billboards and pass out flyers and all this. Like, I've got pizza, pizza, pizza. That's what a funnel is. And people get there, they're like, all right, where's the pizza? People like build a funnel before they even have like anything of value to offer on the back end. Like, they don't, and they're like, oh wait, this funnel isn't working. Let's go to another funnel. Well, what if you actually serve people and gave them great pizza? They'd be on George's podcast right now talking about how much they love Giordano's pizza. And it wouldn't require crazy fancy mechanisms and 100,000 different funnels and tons of different traffic sources. You would have so many. One of my good friends runs a multi-million-dollar agency. They haven't run a single ad for themselves. You know why? Because they're so good at running ads for other people. People are begging to get onto his list, right? And to get into his world, you know? And that's the beauty. Is like, people try to outspend. I love how Eugene Schwartz, who wrote Breakthrough Advertising, he says that no one can afford to create a desire in the marketplace, right? The desires are already there, right? All you have to do is find those things and bridge those people to you. And you're better off having one, especially starting out, one core offer that really serves people, and you make that beautiful. It's a beautiful baby Giordano's pizza, right? And then anything that you do to get people there, just one path to say, hey, here's how great it is. Come try it out. There's your funnel. That path, you don't need 80 of those. You don't need a million funnel sources. You don't need a ton of traffic. You need a great core offer, and it will almost speak for itself.
Yeah. And another thing, I actually have this outline to do an entire podcast on. I'm not going to do it now because I just want to rip it with you, because this is like the perfect thing. I think one of the mistakes that I see, and I see it perpetuated through the market, is that people are hoarding potential, right? Like, they hoard potential.
Yikes.
Right?
Yikes.
I literally, dude, I wrote this rant and I was going to do this like parody video on it, like I did with the Forex and everything else. And I was like, I just haven't done it yet. But it's like, what I watch people selling is they're selling unrealized potential that actually never has the ability to be realized because there's no depth to it. Right. And like what you're talking about is you keep nailing it. Like, at the end of the day, no matter where you are in your business, and you fast forward 5-10 years and you're successful, you might have 100 physical products. 1 to 3 of them accounts for almost all your revenue. You might have 100 offers. 1 to 3 of them accounted for the growth of your business, all your lead magnets, even your content. So when I go into companies, I'm like, I help them identify what their hero SKUs are, what their hero lead magnets are, what their hero pieces of content are, what their hero flavors are. Like, I've gone into CPG companies and supplement companies, and like, we need a hero recipe. And they're like, what the F is that? I'm like, you probably right now and all your content have one recipe that gets more traffic and more conversions than anything else that's out there. You can go make hundreds more, but like in Civilized Caveman, the only reason I was successful is because my paleo banana bread. No joke. My paleo banana bread got me a free trip to Pinterest to meet the founders because they couldn't figure out how my one recipe was pinned 900 million times. I got married to my wife.
Okay.
They flew us to San Francisco to say, what the hell are you doing at civilizedcavemancooking.com to generate 900 million pins of a banana bread that you make in a blender? And I could have never predicted that or known it. I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recipes. That one recipe made me #1 app, 22-week New York Times bestseller, and accounted for like 5 million views a month. And so it didn't matter how many I made. And so what you're talking about is such a powerful concept where what you should be focusing on is what that offer is that meets your customer where they are, takes them there where they want to go, and continually iterate and reinforce and make that better, and then just find more people to walk over that bridge. But you can go be as omnipresent as you want and build as many funnels and pages as you want. But if that core isn't there, there's no substance. And I tell people it's like advertising a home and inviting people over for dinner, but it's only framed out. There's no table, there's no furniture, there's no dinner or place to sit. And so you're literally just getting attention and you're actually pushing people further away because there's no depth or place to invite them in to sit down.
Yeah, boy. And that there's two paths to that. People might be like, all right, cool, George and Jordo, this is great. Like tactically speaking, like, do you go out and build 100 offers and see if one sticks, or build one and really hone that in? You know, it really depends on your market and your disposition, what you want to be doing. But like, I would advocate that people have truly like one incredible piece of value to give to the world: instruction, knowledge, expertise, something that can truly help other people. And like, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to think that everyone knows what you know, because that'll immediately create imposter syndrome, immediately create like, I'm not good enough. Or if you're a narcissist, it'll create like delusions of grandeur, right? Instead, you have to keep in mind that people don't generally know what you know, right? They don't have the experience that you have. They don't have the knowledge or the training that you have, and they haven't been through that life experience. So by sharing that with people and really honing in on that to find that, what was it? What was your banana? Your paleo banana bread?
Paleo banana bread. Yeah.
I mean, it's like that one thing. It's like, you never know what that thing is. And until you give that out to the world and say, hey, world, what do you think of this? And then iterate, like, how can I improve this? How can I make this really great? And then it's almost like TikTok videos that go like what's that one girl? She's like the most viewed on TikTok of all time.
Oh, Bella
The
Porch.
video is Bella Porch. Yeah. She's like it's the simplest video of M to the G. And if you guys want to look it up, and you'll see it's so basic and simple, but also kind of beautiful at the same time. And like, what even is this? It's so kind of entrancing a little bit. I don't even know how many views, probably over 1 billion views by
it's
this
mind-blowing.
point. But it's like, that is the example of putting something out. What if she never shot that video? What if she never gave that to the world? And the TikTok is the funnel for people to get there. They're sitting there swiping through. They gave her a funnel. She had this product, this offer, which was this kind of quirky little video. Enough people got to it where it starts to blow up. What if only 10 people saw that, right? It's the same as I help people kind of craft their offers and whatnot. And then they'll send, maybe have like 10 sales calls or anything. And then if nobody converts, they're like, oh, throw in the towel. It doesn't work. It's like, dude, what if you were in a Major League Baseball stadium in like, we're talking like absolute World Series, and you only get 10 swings of the bat in your entire career. That's it. You're there, or you're an MLB and you get like 1 swing, 3 swings, 5 swings for the entire game. And that's it. And that's not how baseball operates. You get a whole season worth of swings to get out there and make it happen, and just keep swinging, because you never know when something's going to get 900 million pins on Pinterest. Right?
Yeah.
And what if you didn't put it out there?
And the thing is, it's just keep swinging, not change sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
don't pull a Michael Jordan. Okay.
Yeah, no, but like, and I'll use your pizza recipe, right? Like, let's say Giordano's deep dish pizza is your absolute favorite. The world locks down. right? And you can't get it anymore. And so instead, they give you instructions online on how to make it exactly like Giordano's. They ship you the dough,
Ooh,
and they're like,
ooh,
here you go, right? And they help you,
careful.
right? You love it so much and you want that pizza. It's like literally making it once. I mean, like, it doesn't taste right. You throw it away and never try again. No, it's really
Mm,
simple. It's just inputs into a process to create an output if you're going to go Lean Six Sigma on this, right? And so I think one of the reasons I'm successful as an entrepreneur now is because I was a food blogger. And so, like, when I wrote my cookbook, most of the recipes worked. There was this one effing recipe that was the bane of my existence, but it was the most requested recipe ever, which was the paleo cinnamon rolls. Which, by the way, this was like 2014. So, like, alternative flours didn't exist. We had coconut and almond, right? And so I had to make that recipe like 7 times. It took me like a month. I like threw a batch out the window. I like blasted my kitchen one day because none of it ever worked. But really, it was really simple. I looked at the result and I was like, okay, the consistency is off. So I would go back and I was like, I can either change the process or I can adjust the ingredients. And I would make one change and then it got a little closer. One change and then a little closer. And on the 7th try, we nailed it. It was one of the most popular recipes. And so I think it's really imperative that we understand that, like, one of the biggest mistakes that I see is what you just alluded to. It's like I swing until I've hit my threshold, and it's normally the 1 or 2 tries after that that's the breakthrough for the offer, right? It's because that's the point where you're like, I don't know anymore, and you have to look at it differently. And design
mhm.
thinking nails this, right? Like I've done this myself where it's like, okay, I get frustrated, like the offer's not working or this didn't convert. But I'm also looking at it through my lens of creation, and I'm like limiting myself to my thinking. And design thinking is amazing because it basically says change one word to how do I do this or how do I fix this to what might it look like. And just simply changing it to might opens up possibilities that we haven't thought about, and then you try again and you try again. So, like, I don't want people to change sports. Like, your offer is yours. It's your Olympic sport. It's your specialty. And you just keep practicing and practicing it and making measurable tweaks until it works. And it will work. Like, if you've had 10 customers come through and they've gotten results and you can't scale, it's not your offer. You just have to work on the packaging of it or the positioning of it because people have gotten results. So don't quit and abandon it, because I did that for so long. Like, so long. Like, I
It's
had,
a new mistake for sure. It
oh,
really is. It's almost like you start a McDonald's franchise and you're like, oh, I didn't really make it in my first month. Let's go start a Wendy's franchise. It'll probably be better, right?
mm-hmm.
It's like it's that delusional, and people should subscribe to a commitment that is at that level. It's like when we move into the online marketing space or whatever, things are generally simpler than brick and mortar. You don't have to have massive outlays of cash like that, but you should have the same level of commitment and foresight into what it really takes to excel, because nothing changes from that perspective, right?
Yep.
If I can get 100,000 people in a year through a McDonald's, what is the net profit after that? If I can get 100,000 people to my sales funnel, my path to my main offer, how many people buy? What's my net profit? Very likely it's going to be way more than McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
because I'd have a higher lifetime customer value. But if I go for a month and try it, and I've only gotten maybe 1,000 people through the door, it's just not enough big of it. It's not a big enough data set. Like any scientist would say, this is an inconclusive experiment because there's not enough data.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think we need to almost turn off our brain and turn on our muscle, like stop overthinking and start doing. And that would make marketing and business building and all of that actually a lot easier, because our expectations would be aligned.
Well, you just said something I'm going to ask you about, because you just hit probably one of the biggest points that I see get in the way of people even succeeding. And you said, stop thinking and start doing. You can't think it into working. Like, you can't think it
Mm.
into finding the customer. Like, it's Field of Dreams is bullshit. If you
Mm.
build it, they don't come. You
Mm-hmm.
build it and then you go find the wrapping paper, be like, hey, I have this sport, I have this field, and you said it. And I think for me, for years, like, and I struggled with this as an entrepreneur before I ever made my first million or any of that, was, okay, it didn't work. And I would sit there for weeks and I would stare at a whiteboard. I would type emails that were in draft mode, or I would redesign a page, but yet every day there were 20 or 30 people I could have talked to and like pitched the offer to, or built a relationship with, or added value with, that would have given me the information. But it was like I put myself in this silo of like, oh, it didn't work. And I like turned my back on the world, and I expected that I would get an answer in like the dark cave that I needed the feedback from the world to do. So what's your advice around that? Because like I'm going to launch an offer next week that's not going to work out the gate. Like I'm not going to hit 100 milli on this new offer, right? I launched event tickets. I didn't sell 200 tickets in 10 minutes. I sold a decent amount and I'm happy with it, but I'm still making tweaks to get the next one. So like, what's your advice of like, hey, when something goes out there and the results aren't ideal, like how do you assess it? How do you get awareness on it? And then how do you recommit and move forward to stay in that action? Because I really believe that this is just a game of consistency.
Yeah. And so here's my thought. I think number one, you want to establish KPIs before you even launch. You want to create key performance indicators that will tell you what you're going to be guided by. It's really your North Star. So even just this morning, I did that with my team on kind of a new offer. And we said, okay, we want to have dollar clicks. We want $10 leads on average. We'll definitely beat these, but we want to go with a projection, not a goal. People have like crazy ideas about goals. It's like, I want to go to the moon. You don't go to the moon. How about you build a projection about when you're going to finish the spaceship? Right? That's going to be a better way to gauge your success, right? So we said dollar clicks, $10 leads. We want $50 maybe calls booked for an application style funnel, and we want maybe a $300 to $500 cost per acquisition for a high ticket program, right? If those numbers pan out, it's great. So we go out and we'll launch it. We'll give it the time that it needs. You need to properly spend, if you're running to paid advertising, you need to be able to spend up to what makes sense for you to acquire a customer. So if I only spend $50, I've not spent enough to hit my KPIs that I've set for myself. So I need to spend up to $500 in ads just to even see if a buyer comes through. If at that point it does not, it means I'm outside of KPI and it's time to adjust. Okay. So step one is to determine for yourself, what are the numbers that are realistic, fairly conservative, right? I don't want to like hedge my bets on like the very best horse in the best weather, in the best physical shape of its life. I want to hedge my bets on like the third place horse that kind of has been eating Cheetos all season, right? Like, what's the worst case scenario here that could happen so that I can hedge my bet a little bit, hedge my projection? So number one, set some KPIs and some standards that you're going to be guided by. Two, give it enough time or match within the KPIs to actually make that work, where you're spending up to your point of no return, right? So, I mean, I've had a funnel where I spent 10 grand in ads and none of the sales, actually zero sales on the back end even came through. There were a lot of issues outside of it, but there was enough data there for me to say, okay, that was clearly a failure. And yes, everyone, even people who own a funnel company still fail, right? Every fitness junkie still like has a cheat day so don't think that like, even if you haven't been doing this for super long, that you won't still see failure. That still happens, right? But we learn from that and we iterate. So one is KPIs. Two is giving it the time and pressure that it needs to give it the ammunition before you call the show. And then third, I love this phrase by my buddy Cole. I'm sure he borrowed it from somebody, but he says, it's okay to not hit your sales goals. It's not okay to not know why you didn't hit your sales goals. Or another way of saying it, it's okay to lose, but it's not okay to not know why you lost. Mm-hmm. So to evaluate at the end of that, if you can't clearly identify that is why we failed in this test, right? After clearly setting KPIs, giving it the time and attention it needs, even with slight optimizations throughout the process. And at the end of that experimentation and test, determine, do we know exactly why that failed, right? And if you know, then you've learned through it, right? And you can optimize and scale beyond that. If you don't know, then you're beyond the realm of like what you can even do. Like your skill set is capped out and you need to have someone else come in and then give you a diagnosis or, whatever that happens to be. I think it's always wise to have an outside perspective of someone who's in the game. They are where you want to be and they can look at your stuff. That's why I'm a huge advocate of mentorship, live events, coaching, for people who actually are there and know what they're doing, to be looking at your stuff and say, okay, based on what I see with no emotion involved and only my analytical emotive brain or non-emotive brain, purely objective, this is what I see happened. And this is what went right or wrong. And then what are we going to do from that? Right. Mm-hmm. So immediately, I think people see failure as like falling off the horse. Mm-hmm. It's not falling off the horse. Like failure is, people just diagnose failure as being too catastrophic. It's like, man, it's like, it's such a minor thing in the grand scheme of the rope that is your life. It's this tiny strand just on this tiny little pinpoint that's like, oh, that one broke and it got a little frayed, right? There's a good metaphor. It got afraid, right? Maybe fear causes more failure than anything else. But that little tiny piece is really the tiniest little version of something that happened that wasn't in our plan, right? If we had planned differently, maybe the outcome would have been different. If we do this again, are we going to make that same mistake again? Very likely not, provided that you make that happen. So those are kind of my 3 rules. And, you know, I could talk about this stuff for probably weeks, but.
No, I love it. I love it. I think it's good. I think it's good. And, you know, what was the thing that you said? So, was it like going to the moon, but having a spaceship? Like, how did you determine that? Because I feel like people are like, I failed because they didn't make it to the moon before they ever built the spaceship.
Yeah. So this is from Cal Newport's Deep Work.
Yeah. Good book.
So, yep. Great book. Talks about leading indicators and lagging results, right? So never attach yourself to results, which is the biggest mistake most people make. Say, I want to go make money. That's the dumbest idea you can ever make, right? I'm going to go make money, because then you're just going to be wishing, thinking, hoping that you make money, right? Instead of doing the things that lead up to making money. So instead, hedge your bets and reward yourself for the leading indicators that lead to results. So if I know, say I'm a consultant and I've got a $10,000 coaching offer. If I know that I can close 1 out of 10 people, which is really low, a 10% conversion into my $10,000 program, and I want to make 30 grand this month, how many calls do I need to do? I need to do 30 calls. So if I've got a 10% conversion rate into a 10K program, I need to do 30 calls. And if I do those 30 calls, I will make 30K. That's it. Those are the numbers. If all things remain the same, it's the average of the mean. It's where you can, the law of averages will remove your distinction towards being very emotional, right? It's not emotional. It's numbers. Look at your numbers. If you have a 10K product, you close at 10%, you run 30 calls, you will make 30 grand. That's the nature of the machine that exists. If you want to make 50, you make 50 calls. Or what else can you do? You can double your conversion rate. If you make 20% of sales for those 30 calls, you make 60 grand, right? So we can tweak any one of these numbers in the process and say, my goal is not, I don't want to make 60K. I want to close 20% of my deals and book 30 calls. Which one has a better likelihood of actually hitting 60K in total revenue? It would be the leading indicators. I'm going to say, I'm going to book by this month, I'm going to book 30 calls, 30 strategy calls, discovery calls, whatever you call them. And I'm going to close 20% of those people in. If I hedge my attachment to doing that work, the results always take care of themselves all the time. I rarely see anything happen to the contrary.
Yeah, that one just hit me in the gut. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It's tough. I know. I got to gut check myself sometimes. Like, did I bring the leads? Did I do the calls?
But what I think is so important is that, like, it never goes away. Like, it doesn't matter what level you make it to. It's always going to come down to that same process, like those same inputs, and it's the same game, except you just get bigger results, bigger circumstances, but also bigger consequences when you forget it, which is why we have friends that remind us and play this game together. Because, like, you're saying that, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh, yeah, we have the event coming up, and I'm stoked on tickets. I was like, oh, wait, I haven't done anything today to actually sell a ticket, and I'm, like, sitting over here, like, I'm like, oh, nothing came in today. I'm like, oh, yeah, but if I look at yesterday when like 12 or 14 came in, I'm like, oh, I generated those 14 today. I was too busy watching YouTube videos of freestyle rap to bring it full circle.
Oh, geez. And what would happen if you literally did almost the exact same thing you did yesterday to bring in those sales? I mean, again, if you hit the exact same audience like 20 times, you're going to get burned out. I mean, there's a point in time where insanity kicks in, right? Yeah. You can't keep hitting the same offer to the same list. That's like asking your mom for $100 3 times a day and she's just going to slap you in the face because you're being an idiot, right? There's that side of things, right? But if you did that exact same pitch to another audience and either borrowed someone else's audience or leveraged paid advertising or went back to your email list with a different angle, a different whatever, it's like you can very likely expect the same result, which is the beautiful part and the control that we have, which is if you want 100 people to come to your event, which I think if anyone can come, you should come because I'll be there and we'll hang out. It'll be a great time. But if you want 100 people to attend that event and say you've got like 10 in a single day that was booked, what happened then that you can replicate either to the same list with a different angle or another audience with that same original angle? You should very likely see similar results as well. So it's like, we just play this game of like, if I send an email, I make this much money. If I put out a Facebook post, I get this much engagement. If I do a 2-step post in a Facebook group and I can book these many calls, I get this many sales on the outside. Then it becomes predictable. It's like the other day I was running a webinar. I was like, we're down about 15K or so on our revenue sheet on our budget. So I launched a webinar to about 100 people. 32 of those people bought into a $500 program, and then it closed our 15K deficit, right? I mean, that just becomes a skill set that you master, which is like, if I go out and make this offer to this many people, I will make this much revenue every single time I do it. If I do this, I get that. It's input, process, and output. I love the way you put that.
Yeah. That's the SIPOC model. So supplier, input, process, output, customer. For the little bit of organization my brain does to be effective at what I do. So I love it. I think that's going to be a close. And here's the beautiful serendipitous part of this. Right before we did this interview, I recorded an entire episode on the traffic tripod, earned, owned, and paid media. And so the fact that you just said that, it comes out 2 days before this episode does, which is absolutely perfect. So we'll leave the traffic tripod where the traffic tripod belongs, which, by the way, was a really difficult concept to speak through when I'm using a diagram in front of me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is one of those ones that like needs a video, but yeah, it's fun. And I love that. So first, and like just in case you guys haven't found out, I use drop funnels, but you want to give me like an overview, like who is it for, like best place to go, like how to get started. Like I would actually love from your side, not my side.
Sure. Yeah. So for anyone who's running sales funnels, or you want to build a course, a membership platform, you want to build a sales funnel with upsells to kind of get your either your information or your products out to the world. Drop funnels is really the elite marketer's choice, where, as we mentioned here, we're not going to sell your data or your customers or market to them or remarket to them. It truly is a place where I think that you can thrive. It starts at just $49. It's actually there's a free trial too, so you can kind of get going there. If people want to reach out to me directly, I'm Jordan, Jordan, at dropfunnels.com. So there we go again, giving away some, if you ever want to contact, we're very, support matters a bunch to us. You being the hero and supporting you through your journey is what really matters to us. And so we're excited to see people, truly flourish and build something that's beautiful and their own. And yes, there's new things to build, new things to learn, learning curves for any new tool that you're going to ultimately utilize. But, we truly believe that we're here to serve people in the best way possible, financially, ethically, through support, and all those things as well. So you can go to dropfunnels.com and check it out and see if it feels like a good fit for you.
I love it. And I'll invoice you for this podcast later. And you can sell my data to pay for it. You can sell my data to pay for it.
That's good.
Oh, yes. And that's his email. And what's funny is I gave my personal email on Mike's podcast a couple years ago, and he's like, "You're nuts." And I was like, maybe. It ended up being a really smart decision. So I love it. And I'm going to advocate for this. One of my favorite features, by the way, though, is I always like finding inspiration online. I'm like, I want my stuff to look like this, and I never want to hire a designer. And I love drop funnels. Like I can drop the link in and it basically brings it in for me. And so it's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite things ever because it gives me a good baseline to work from.
Yeah. And if you need to migrate, we got a great migration team. If people like, they want to move in, and that's fine. You can help them there. There's an auto migration. If you have a ClickFunnels site or whatever, you can actually, it's a one-click import, and it'll just bring in your stuff about 80 to 90% accurate to get some of your designs moved in there. And suddenly you're on WordPress. And now your sales funnels can be found in Google. And when people are searching for you, that's a huge deal. Like imagine people searching for how to lose weight, this month or something, and then your sales funnel pops up as a front page result. I mean, that's possible now. So that's the beauty of it.
And I also covered that in the previous podcast. If you haven't listened, that's owned traffic, just so you know. That's owned traffic.
Right.
Boom. So I love it. I always close with this question. Everybody listening, it's been an absolute blast. We'll have to do round 2, Jordo, because I love this.
I think
one.
we need to.
Yeah, we'll do round 2 for sure. We'll give it a gap to this marinates for people. But everybody listening is only going to remember what you say right now. It's going to be tattooed on their soul. It's the one thing they're going to take forward with them. What would you have people tattoo on their soul to remember? Like, what would you leave people with? What would you want them to know? Or what words of wisdom would you tattoo on their soul to end the episode?
Oh boy, that's great. And that's a ton of heat. I feel my face burning right now. I would say believe in these 2 fundamental concepts. It's speed and control. There's no competitive advantage to being second to market or being second best or being second cheapest. There is true power in being a differentiator. There's plenty of room in the space for disruption and innovation and ideas. And when you control your infrastructure, you control your tech and what you do with your business and how that relays the message to the market, that's true control of your business, to own the cart and own where your ideas go. That level of speed and control, not just fast pages and fast infrastructure, but getting out to the market quickly, knowing that when I have an idea, I can launch it in a moment's notice whenever I want. I can launch a sales page. I can launch a webinar. I can send out an email and make 20 grand in sales just because of building out that audience. It's those 2 things of speed and control. And if you chase those 2 things, I fully believe, embrace, recognize, and trust that it can change your life, your family's life, build multi-generational wealth, build true belief in what you have to offer to the world. And these are just these micro ingredients that I think can be the smallest hinge that swings the biggest door.
I love it. I'm not gonna dilute that wisdom at all. We're gonna go ahead and just use some sound effects for that one. So listen, thank you for being here, Jordo. I'm gonna wrap right now. So everybody, this is another episode, Free for All Friday. Go to dropfunnels.com. I would say something intelligent, like not only I'm the founder, but I'm a member too, but this isn't Hair Club for Men. I actually just use the platform and I love it and my team loves it. And I highly recommend Jordan. I highly recommend his team. And I highly recommend you get your ass to my event in April in Montana, because Jordan will be there and you can corner him and have him build all your stuff for you. He didn't offer that, but I'm going to tell you that if you do it, he'll probably do it. So go to dropfunnels.com. I will see you guys in the next episode. Go to mindofgeorge.com for all the event details are on the top of my homepage. And if you're listening to this after April, you're going to have to sign up for the next one. Sorry. So I will see you guys in the next episode, or I will hear you in your earballs. Have a good day, and I will talk to you soon. Now it's time to cue the outro.